Captain Jake Morrison stood in the control room of his ship and watched the bright colors of space travel fade away. After many months of flying through dangerous space, they had finally reached their target. The ship called Jörmungandr had been traveling in silence for over a year. Hiding from alien ships that wanted to destroy all humans, thought the young woman at the sensor station looked up with wide eyes. Her name was Amy Foster, and she was very good at her job. She pressed some buttons and checked her screen twice before speaking. "Captain, I see huge energy readings all over this star system. There are 12 different types of ships here, and none of them look like our ships at all." Rick Hayes was the second in command of the ship. He was a tall man with gray hair who had been in many space battles before. He walked over to the captain and spoke in a low voice. "Sir, they are scanning our ship right now. Many different ships are looking at us very carefully." Morrison nodded but did not look worried. The Jörmungandr was not like the old human ships. This ship was built after 3 years of terrible war with aliens who wanted to kill all humans. Every part of the ship was made to fight and win against enemies who thought humans were weak. The ship had traveled very far from Earth to reach this place. Morrison and his crew knew this might be their last mission. They had left their families and friends behind to bring a message to the aliens who had attacked human worlds. "Open a channel so we can talk to all the alien ships," Morrison told his communication officer. Within a few minutes, the ship's radio was full of alien voices speaking in many different languages. The ship's computer, which the crew called Oracle, began to change the alien words into English. Most of the messages were demands to know who they were, but some were clearly battle plans being shared between the alien fleets. Lisa Parker was the chief engineer who kept all the ship's systems working. She had been working on the ship's computer systems when Oracle started picking up the alien messages. Her face went pale as she listened to what the aliens were saying. "Captain, Oracle is hearing the aliens talk about something they call the human plague, and a threat from the Sol system. They know we come from Earth." Morrison smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Good, he thought. If the aliens were afraid, that would make his job easier. Fear was a powerful weapon, and it seemed like other humans had already made the aliens nervous. The biggest alien ship was made of some kind of crystal material and was twice as big as the Jörmungandr. It moved toward them like a predator approaching its prey. On the main viewing screen, the image of a tall alien appeared. It looked like a giant insect with sharp mouth parts that clicked when it spoke. The alien's voice was cold and threatening. "Human ship, you will surrender right now, or we will destroy you. Your species has been marked as dangerous to all life in the galaxy. You have no choice but to give up." Morrison looked around at his crew. These men and women had volunteered for what everyone back on Earth thought was a suicide mission. They had left behind everything they loved to carry humanity's message of defiance deep into enemy space. Each person on the bridge was ready to die for their species. Amy Foster was only 25 years old, but had proven herself as one of the best sensor operators in the human fleet. Rick Hayes had a wife and 2 children back on Earth who might never see him again. Lisa Parker had turned down a safe job on Mars to join this mission. They were all here because they believed in what they were doing. "Negative," Morrison replied in a calm voice. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth ship Jörmungandr. We are here to deliver a message from all of humanity. The message is simple. Leave our space, leave our worlds, and never threaten Earth again." The alien's big compound eyes seemed to shine with what might have been amusement. It made a sound that could have been laughter. One ship against an entire fleet. Your species' arrogance has no limits. Morrison felt the eyes of his crew on him. They were waiting to see how he would respond to the alien's threat. The odds were impossible. One human ship against hundreds of alien vessels. By every rule of space warfare, they should surrender or run away. But humans did not follow the same rules as other species. "One ship," Morrison agreed, his voice steady and confident. "But we are human. That should be enough." The alien commander paused, as if it had not expected that response. In the background, Morrison could see other aliens moving around what looked like a command center. They were probably preparing for battle, getting their weapons, ready to destroy the single human ship that dared to challenge their entire fleet. Morrison knew that in the next few hours, either he and his crew would be dead, or the galaxy would learn something new about humanity. Either way, the message would be delivered. Earth's children would not go quietly into the darkness. The communication channel closed, and the bridge of the Jörmungandr became very quiet. Outside the ship, hundreds of alien vessels began to move into attack positions. The battle that would change the galaxy was about to begin. Morrison sat down in his captain's chair and pressed a button on the armrest. Throughout the ship, alarms began to sound. It was time to show the aliens what humans could do when they were fighting for survival. "All hands battle stations," Morrison announced over the ship's communication system. "This is what we came here to do. Let's make sure they remember this day." The crew moved to their positions with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this moment for months, running battle simulations and preparing for every possible scenario. Now it was time to find out if all that preparation would be enough. As the alien ships closed in around them, Morrison thought about Earth, so far away. He thought about the colonies that had been destroyed and the millions of humans who had died. Those people deserved justice, and the Jörmungandr was here to deliver it. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had named their ship after the world serpent. 3 hours had passed since the battle began, and now pieces of 7 alien ships floated through space like broken toys. The Jörmungandr hung in the darkness, its hull marked with scratches and burn marks, but still in one piece. The remaining alien ships had moved far away, keeping their distance like scared animals inside the biggest alien command ship. Admiral SciFi stared at his battle screen in complete shock. His tentacles moved nervously as he tried to understand what had just happened. The human ship had not just won the fight. It had completely destroyed 7 of his best warships without breaking a sweat. The alien admiral had 8 arms and came from a water world where his people ruled a vast empire. He had won hundreds of space battles and was considered one of the best military commanders in the galaxy. But nothing in his long career had prepared him for what he had just witnessed. General Vorthik stood beside him, his lizard-like face twisted with confusion and fear. His people were warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds, but even they had never seen anything like this. "How is this possible?" Vorthik demanded, his clawed hands gripping the edge of the control table. "Our information told us the humans had simple rockets and basic atomic bombs." SciFi's tentacles curled and uncurled as he thought. That information was 3 years old. It seems we badly underestimated how fast these humans can learn and build new things. On the main viewing screen, the human ship slowly turned in space. They could clearly see the name painted on its side in white letters. Jörmungandr. SciFi had studied human stories and myths as part of his job. He knew this name. It was the world serpent from their ancient tales. The giant snake that would eat the gods when their world ended. The name sent a chill through his body. "Sir," called his communication officer. A small gray alien with big black eyes. "We are getting messages from all the other fleet commanders. They want to know what to do next." SciFi looked at his tactical display. The coalition had brought 12 separate fleets to this battle, with ships from 6 different alien races. More than 300 vessels in total. The loss of 7 ships should not have mattered much, but the way they had been destroyed had shaken everyone. The human ship had moved through their formations, like a hunting beast among prey animals. Its weapons were unlike anything they had ever seen. and its defensive systems had made their attacks completely useless. Worse still, the ship seemed to know exactly what they were going to do before they did it. "Open a communication channel to the human ship," SciFi ordered. The face that appeared on his screen was calm and weathered, like an old piece of stone shaped by wind and rain. The human called Morrison sat in what looked like a command chair, with other humans working quietly at control stations around him. They all moved with smooth efficiency, like parts of a well-made machine. "Admiral," Morrison said, somehow knowing SciFi's rank without being told, "I trust you have had time to think about our message. Your message was delivered with great force, Captain. But you are still only one ship. We have many fleets." Morrison leaned back in his chair, looking completely relaxed despite being surrounded by hundreds of enemy ships. "Admiral, may I tell you something? 3 years ago, when your coalition first attacked our outer colonies, you killed 2 million human civilians. Men, women, and children. Entire families wiped out." SciFi remained silent, but his tentacles stopped moving. "Do you know what happened next?" Morrison continued, his voice still calm but with an edge of steel underneath. "We did not panic. We did not surrender. We did what humans always do when someone threatens to destroy us completely. We evolved." Behind Morrison, a human female with short brown hair approached and whispered something in his ear. Morrison nodded to her, then looked back at the screen. "My computer officer tells me that you have been trying to scan our ship for the past hour. You will not find what you are looking for, Admiral. The Jörmungandr is not just a warship. It is a statement. It is proof that humanity has earned its place in this galaxy." SciFi felt a growing sense of dread. Something about the human's confidence was deeply unsettling. "What do you want from us?" "Complete withdrawal from all systems that humans have claimed as their own. Payment for the colonies you destroyed. And a formal agreement that you will never again threaten humanity's right to expand into empty space." The bridge fell silent. Several alien officers looked at each other with uncertainty. Finally, General Vorthik spoke up, his voice rough with barely controlled anger. "And if we refuse your demands?" Morrison's smile was cold as winter ice. "Then we will show you why we named this ship after the world serpent." The communication channel closed, leaving the aliens staring at a blank screen. For several long moments, nobody spoke. Then Vorthik slammed his fist on the control table. "One ship," he roared. "How can one ship make demands of our entire coalition?" But SciFi was studying the battle recordings, watching them over and over again. Each time he saw something new that made his blood run cold. The human ship had not fought like anything he had ever encountered. It moved with perfect grace through space, its weapons fired with deadly accuracy, and its defensive systems bent the laws of physics in ways that should have been impossible. "Call a meeting of all fleet commanders," SciFi ordered quietly. "We need to discuss this situation." "What situation?" Vorthik demanded. "It is one ship against 300. SciFi turned to look at his fellow commander, and Vorthik was surprised to see fear in the Admiral's eyes. "That is exactly the situation," SciFi said. "One ship that just destroyed 7 of our best vessels without taking serious damage. One ship whose technology is clearly far beyond anything we possess. One ship crewed by a species that took only 3 years to advance from primitive rockets to weapons that can bend space and time." He pointed at the tactical display where the Jörmungandr sat motionless in space, waiting. "Do you understand what this means? If they can build one such ship, they can build 10, or 100, or 1,000. The bridge fell silent again as the implications sank in. Somewhere far away, around a yellow star called Sol, the humans were probably building more ships just like this one. ships crewed by beings who had proven they could adapt and advance at a terrifying rate when threatened. General Vorthik looked at the display again, seeing the human ship in a new light. "What do you recommend, Admiral?" Zexai's tentacles writhed as he considered their options. "I recommend we listen very carefully to what Captain Morrison has to say, because I have a feeling that refusing his offer would be the last mistake we ever make." Outside in space, the Jörmungandr waited patiently for their answer, like a predator that knew its prey had nowhere to run. The real battle began when Admiral Zexai finally gave the order to attack. 12 coalition fleets, with all the military power of 6 different space civilizations, moved together to destroy a single human ship that should not have been able to survive their first attack. The Jörmungandr did not try to run away. Instead, it did something that broke every rule of space fighting that the coalition knew. It flew straight toward the center of all their ships at incredible speed. "Impossible," whispered General Vorthik as he watched his battle screen. "No ship can move that fast without breaking apart." The human ship was moving at almost 15% of light speed, much faster than any ship of its size should be able to go. But that was not the most frightening part. The most frightening part was that it was shooting while moving at that impossible speed. On the Jörmungandr, Lieutenant Commander Kate Williams worked at her weapons station with calm skill. She had trained for this moment for 2 years, learning to use weapons that most humans could barely understand. The ship's main guns were called gravitational lances, and they could bend space and time itself to create devastating attacks. Each lance could punch through the armor of the biggest alien warship like a knife cutting through paper. The weapons used the same force that held planets in orbit around stars, but focused into a beam of pure destruction. Multiple targets locked on. Williams reported to Captain Morrison. "Ready to fire." "Fire when ready," Morrison commanded. The space around the Jörmungandr lit up with brilliant flashes as the gravitational lances fired. Reality twisted and bent around the weapon beams, creating strange visual effects that hurt to look at directly. Where the beams hit coalition ships, metal and alien flesh simply stopped existing, leaving perfect round holes through hulls, decks, and crew areas. But the lances were only the beginning. As the human ship dove deeper into the coalition formation, it began dropping what the crew called smart mines. These were small devices, almost invisible, that stuck to enemy ship hulls and waited for the right moment to explode. Each mine carried a tiny, gravitational collapse device that could crush a large part of a ship's structure. The mines were smart enough to know where to attach themselves for maximum damage, and when to explode for the greatest effect. Chief Petty Officer Dan Carter watched the mine deployment from his engineering station. He was a young man from Texas who had always been good with machines, but even he was amazed by the technology they were using. "Captain, we have 60% coverage on the main targets. The big crystal ship is completely covered with mines." Morrison nodded. "Lisa, how are our power levels holding up?" Chief Engineer Lisa Parker checked her readings. She was responsible for keeping all the ship's systems running during battle, and so far everything was working perfectly. Fusion reactors at 92% efficiency. Gravitational core is stable. We can keep fighting like this for another 4 hours without any problems. On the Coalition command ship, panic was starting to spread among the alien crew members. In less than 20 minutes, the human ship had destroyed or badly damaged over 40 vessels without taking any serious damage itself. Even worse, it seemed to be learning their fighting tactics as the battle went on, getting better and smarter with each attack. "How are they doing this?" demanded Admiral Zexai, his tentacles writhing with stress. "No single ship should be able to fight our entire fleet and win." His science officer was a tall, pale alien from the Centauri system. He looked up from his instruments with obvious fear in his large black eyes. "Admiral, I am detecting massive quantum fluctuations around the human ship. They are not just using advanced technology. They are using technology that should not be possible according to everything we know about physics. Explain what you mean, Zixai ordered. They appear to have solved the unified field problem. Their ship is creating localized gravitational fields that let them ignore the normal laws of physics. They can speed up without feeling the effects of acceleration, fire weapons that manipulate space and time directly, and their defensive systems are bending our attacks away from their hull. General Vortex stared at the tactical display as another coalition. Dreadnoughts simply vanished in a flash of collapsing space. The ship was there one moment and gone the next, as if it had never existed at all. How long would it normally take a species to develop this kind of technology from basic spaceflight? He asked. Under normal circumstances? Thousands of years. Maybe tens of thousands. The humans did it in 3 years. The silence on the bridge was complete. Every alien present was trying to understand what this meant. A species that could advance their technology at such an incredible rate was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Sir, called the communication officer. We are receiving surrender requests from 17 different ship commanders. They want permission to retreat. Zexhai looked at his tactical display. Red icons representing destroyed coalition ships were scattered across the screen like drops of blood. The human ship continued to move through their formations, dealing death with scientific precision. Grant permission for any ship that wants to withdraw, he ordered, but maintain the communication channel to the human vessel. On the screen, Captain Morrison's face appeared again. Behind him, his crew continued to work with the same calm efficiency they had shown from the beginning. It was as if they were conducting a training exercise rather than fighting for their lives. Admiral, Morrison said, I hope you are beginning to understand our message. Captain Morrison, what your ship has accomplished here defies every law of physics and warfare that we know. How is this possible? Morrison's expression became serious. Admiral, 3 years ago, your coalition killed 2 million of our people. Men, women, children, entire families. When you did that, you made a fundamental error in judgment. What error? You assumed that humans would react the way other species react when threatened with extinction. You thought we would panic, surrender, or ask for mercy. Morrison leaned forward in his chair. What you did not understand is that humans are different. When you threaten to destroy us completely, we do not break. We become something new. Another coalition ship exploded in the background, its hull crushed by gravitational forces beyond imagination. Every human scientist, engineer, and researcher redirected their work toward a single goal, making sure you could never threaten our species again. We did not just build better weapons, Admiral. We rebuilt the fundamental laws that govern how our technology works. The truth was finally becoming clear to the alien commanders. They had not just attacked the human colony 3 years ago. They had triggered an evolutionary leap in human technology and military capability that had transformed the entire species. What do you want from us? Zexhai asked quietly. The same thing I wanted 3 hours ago, Morrison replied. Withdrawal from human space, reparations for our losses, and a guarantee that this will never happen again. The battle continued around them, but both commanders knew it was already over. The coalition had learned what it meant to threaten humanity's survival, and the lesson had been written in fire and twisted metal across the star system. By the 4th hour of fighting, the coalition fleets had been broken into small groups of ships running away in all directions. The Jörmungandr floated motionless in the center of the battlefield, surrounded by the twisted metal remains of over 200 destroyed alien vessels. Captain Morrison stood in front of the main viewing screen, looking out at the destruction with mixed feelings. Behind him, His crew worked quietly to check for damage and reload their weapon systems. The bridge was strangely calm, considering they had just fought the biggest space battle in human history. "How many of our people were hurt?" Morrison asked. 7 wounded, no deaths," reported Dr. Ben Hayes, the ship's chief medical officer. He was an older man with gray hair who had served on many ships before joining this mission. Most injuries were from control panels exploding during the heavy fighting. What about the ship? Chief Engineer Lisa Parker looked up from her damage control station. Her uniform was dirty from crawling through maintenance tunnels to fix damaged systems, but she was smiling. Hull strength at 86%. All main systems working normally. We used about 30% of our gravitational core fuel, but we are nowhere near running out. Morrison nodded, then turned to the communication station. "Amy, open a channel to any coalition ships still close enough to talk to us." Within minutes, dozens of alien faces appeared on smaller screens around the bridge. Some were familiar from earlier conversations. Others were clearly representatives of species that had watched the battle from what they thought was a safe distance. "Attention coalition forces," Morrison began, his voice carrying easily across the communication network. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Jörmungandr. The demonstration is now complete." Admiral Zexhi's image filled the main screen. His ship had survived by staying as far away as possible during the fighting, but his confidence was clearly destroyed. His tentacles moved nervously as he spoke. "Captain Morrison, what you have done here today is impossible. No single ship could defeat our combined fleets like this. Admiral, you are still thinking in terms of your old understanding of physics and warfare. Humanity has moved beyond those limitations." Morrison gestured toward the debris field around them. "What you saw here today was not impossible. It was inevitable. How?" The question came from a dozen different alien voices at the same time. Morrison smiled, and for the first time since the battle began, it seemed genuinely warm rather than threatening. "Because you threatened our children, Admiral. You attacked our colonies, killed our people, and declared war on our species. What you did not understand is that humans do not fight wars to win battles. We fight wars to end them permanently." He paused, letting those words sink in. 3 years ago, Earth's greatest minds were focused on peaceful exploration and scientific research. The day you attacked our colonies, every human scientist, engineer, and researcher changed their focus to a single goal: making sure you could never threaten us again. Lieutenant Commander Williams looked up from her weapons console. She was monitoring long-range sensors while the captain spoke to the aliens. "Captain, we are detecting multiple hyperspace signatures approaching our position. Long-range sensors suggest coalition reinforcements are coming." Morrison's expression did not change. "How many ships?" "Initial count suggests over 500 vessels, sir. Multiple fleet types from at least 8 different species." The alien faces on the communication screens showed a mixture of hope and terror. Admiral Zexhi leaned forward with renewed interest. "Captain, surely even your advanced vessel cannot fight against odds of 500 to 1. Morrison turned to face the tactical display, where new red symbols were beginning to appear at the edge of sensor range. Each symbol represented an enemy warship racing toward their location. "You are absolutely correct, Admiral. The Jörmungandr was designed to fight fleets, not entire armadas." He pressed a button on his command chair, and his smile became wider. "Fortunately, we did not come alone." The space around the Jörmungandr suddenly filled with distortions and gravity as dozens of identical human vessels appeared out of hyperspace. Each ship had the same sleek, dangerous design as the original, and each carried the name of a creature from human mythology painted on its hull. There was the Fenrir, named after the giant wolf that would devour the king of the gods. The Leviathan, the sea monster from ancient tales. The Kraken, the beast that could destroy entire fleets with its tentacles. The Bahamut, the whale that supported the world. The Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent of the Americas. Ladies and gentlemen, Morrison announced to the stunned alien commanders, meet the World Serpent Fleet. 36 ships, each carrying the same message we delivered here today. The communication channels erupted with panicked alien voices as they realized the true scope of humanity's preparation. This had not been a single ship on a desperate suicide mission. This had been a carefully planned demonstration of human military power, designed to end the war before it could truly begin. Admiral XI stared at his tactical display in complete shock. Where moments before there had been one human ship, now there were 36 identical vessels arranged in a perfect formation. Each one represented the same impossible technology, the same devastating weapons, the same tactical superiority they had just witnessed. "This is not possible," whispered General Vorthik from another ship. "How could they have built so many advanced vessels in such a short time?" Captain Sarah Martinez of the World Serpent vessel Fenrir answered over the communication channel. She was a young woman with short black hair and intense brown eyes. "General, you still do not understand what happened 3 years ago when you attacked our colonies. You did not just start a war with humanity. You started a revolution in human thinking and technology." Morrison took control of the conversation again. "Admiral, each of these ships represents 6 months of focused human effort. While you were celebrating your early victories, we were rebuilding our entire technological base from the ground up. The approaching coalition reinforcements were now visible on long-range sensors, but their advance had slowed noticeably. The commanders of those fleets were undoubtedly receiving reports about what had happened in the battle zone. Admiral, Morrison continued, your reinforcement fleets are welcome to continue their approach. 36 human ships should provide an even better demonstration of our capabilities. But even as he spoke, the approaching alien fleets began to slow and then stop completely. The reports they were receiving from the battle zone had clearly changed their minds about continuing the attack. Zexhai looked around at the faces of his fellow commanders on the communication screens. Fear, confusion, and growing desperation were visible in every alien expression. "Captain Morrison," he said slowly, "what exactly do you want from us?" "The same thing I have wanted from the beginning. Admiral, peace. But peace on terms that guarantee the safety of every human man, woman, and child in the galaxy." Morrison looked out at the 36 human warships floating in perfect formation around the debris of the alien fleet. Each ship represented humanity's determination to never again face extinction at the hands of alien aggressors. "The choice is yours, Admiral. We can end this war today with words and agreements. Or we can end it later with more demonstrations like the one you just witnessed." The silence that followed was broken only by the static of interstellar communication channels. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, waiting for the aliens to make their choice. The peace talks took place on the Coalition flagship, with representatives from 12 different alien species sitting around a large crystal table. Captain Morrison sat across from Admiral Zexhai, with his senior officers and the captains of 3 other World Serpent ships beside him. The air in the room was tense but respectful. The aliens had learned to take human abilities very seriously after witnessing the destruction of their fleets. "The terms cannot be changed," Morrison stated calmly. "Complete withdrawal from all star systems within 50 light years of our sun. Payment for the destroyed colonies over 10 years using raw materials and technology. Creation of permanent diplomatic channels to prevent future misunderstandings." Admiral Zexhai's tentacles moved nervously as he considered the human demands. "Captain, you must understand our position. The coalition represents hundreds of worlds and trillions of citizens. We cannot simply abandon our expansion plans because of one battle. One battle? Commander Rick Hayes spoke for the first time, his voice carrying barely controlled anger. Admiral, you have seen what 36 human ships can do. We have shipyards around our sun, producing 12 more vessels every month. In 1 year, we will have over 100 World Serpent-class warships. In 5 years, we will have 1,000. The alien representatives looked at each other with growing concern. The mathematics of the situation were becoming very clear. If humans could build ships this powerful at such a rate, the coalition would soon face an impossible military disadvantage. Morrison leaned forward. But here is what you do not understand, Admiral. We do not want to build 1,000 warships. We do not want to fight this war at all. Humans prefer to explore, to learn, to build new things. We would rather be your trading partners than your enemies. He pointed toward the stars visible through the conference room's clear walls. The galaxy is big enough for all of us. There are millions of star systems, billions of worlds. Humanity only claims what we need to survive and grow. We are not interested in conquest or ruling over others. Then why build such powerful weapons? Asked General Vorthik, his lizard face showing genuine confusion. Captain Sarah Martinez of the World Serpent vessel Fenrir answered. She was a serious woman who had lost her brother in the first alien attacks on human colonies. Because we learned something important from our history, General. Peace is not just the absence of fighting. Peace is the presence of justice, backed by the strength to maintain it. The negotiations continued for 6 hours, with translators working to make sure every word was understood correctly. But the outcome was never really in doubt. The coalition had sent their primary fleets to what they thought would be a simple extermination campaign, only to discover that their intended victims had become the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Documents were prepared in dozens of different languages and formats to accommodate all the alien species involved. Each page was checked and rechecked to ensure there could be no misunderstandings about the terms of the agreement. As the formal papers were signed and transmitted to governments across the galaxy, Morrison found himself alone on the observation deck of his ship. He stood looking out at the star field, where humanity had announced its arrival as a major galactic power. Lieutenant Amy Foster approached and stood beside him. She was young, but had proven herself capable under the most extreme pressure. Sir, we are receiving congratulatory messages from Earthfleet Command. Admiral Santos wants to know when we will be returning home. Morrison thought about the question for a long moment. Tell the Admiral we will come home when we are sure the job is finished. The Jörmungandr and her sister ships will patrol our borders for the next year. After that, he smiled quietly. After that, maybe we can go back to being explorers instead of warriors. Foster nodded and turned to leave, then stopped. Captain, do you think the aliens will honor the treaty they just signed? Morrison looked out at the distant stars, each one representing countless worlds and civilizations that humanity had yet to meet. Some would be friendly, others might be hostile, but all would now know that humans were not to be underestimated. They will honor it, Amy, not because they want to, but because they understand what will happen if they do not. He touched the nameplate on the wall beside him that read Jörmungandr World Serpent. In the Old Norse stories, the World Serpent grew so large it could circle the entire world and grab its own tail. When it finally let go, Ragnarok would begin, and the old world would end in fire and chaos. But Morrison had always preferred the lesser-known ending to that story. After Ragnarok, after the destruction of the old gods and the old world, something new would be born. A better world, where the survivors could build something worth keeping and protecting. As the World Serpent fleet prepared to spread out across human space to begin their patrol duties, Morrison allowed himself to hope that the galaxy's future would be written in trade agreements and diplomatic treaties rather than battle. Reports and casualty lists thought the war was over. Humanity had spoken with one voice, delivered by 36 ships bearing the names of legendary creatures. And the galaxy had listened very carefully to every word. Behind them, the broken remains of the old order drifted in space like forgotten memories, while ahead lay infinite possibilities among the countless stars. The age of human expansion had begun not with conquest and domination, but with the promise that Earth's children would never again face extinction alone and defenseless. The world serpent had uncoiled itself, stretched across the galaxy, and grasped its own tail in a protective circle. And in that protective embrace, a new era of galactic civilization was born. An era where humanity would take its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians of peace backed by unshakable strength. The Jörmungandr and its sister ships turned toward their assigned patrol routes, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of an entire species. They had come to deliver a message of defiance, but they were leaving behind something far more valuable, the foundation of a lasting peace in the years that would follow. When alien children heard stories of the day the world serpent fleet arrived, they would learn an important lesson. Some species in the galaxy were too dangerous to threaten, too resilient to break, and too determined to ever give up. Humanity had earned its place among the stars the hard way, and now they would guard that place with vigilance and strength for generations to come. The galaxy had whispered one name, and that name had changed everything.